subject today is rather unsavory, but it has to be said, and it's about King Charles III coronation. That a lot of things in that coronation were totally out of place. For those that study tradition and ceremony of coronations and know the background of these things, well, a very good writer here that I read her article, Dr. Naomi Wolf, she wrote an article recently called Weird Things About King Charles's Coronation. As symbols are twisted, is Britain being deconsecrated? Well, that's wouldn't surprise me at all. It seems that the whole West is going down the drain, and the whole West, in everything they do, is departing from everything to do with Christianity, everything to do with belief in God, and tragically, this coronation of King Charles III is no different. Everything that Naomi says here, and this is an 11-page article, and I'll just quote certain things from it. I'll just read you the introduction to this, and I'll give you a summary with my own words. But the word for this is shocking, really shocking. Here's somebody who is a historian, author, writer, investigator, somebody who really knows the traditions and has done her homework, really knows how it should be. In fact, you can see she gives a lot of history going back what former coronations have been like, what they should be like, what Charles' mother, Queen Elizabeth, when she was crowned, how it should be, and how all the kings going back centuries, how they were crowned and what people wore, how the ceremony went about, how the consecration went about, how the anointing went, anointing of oil. Everything was changed in this coronation. I mean, everything. And the summary she gives of the coronation of King Charles III was, they've turned away from Christianity and they've turned to paganism. Which of course doesn't surprise us, because if you know anything about King Charles, he works together with the World Economic Forum. So if we go that direction, we're going to have to somewhere along the line denounce your Christianity or traditional Christianity. Well, this coronation of King Charles III was exactly that. As she says there, Britain is being deconsecrated. Deconsecrated from what? From Christianity. There are many strange scenes at the coronation that were very odd indeed. There is one in particular, I'd say, where they have a time where the king is supposed to say, I'm here for the nation and for God, I will defend country in the name of God. That's missed out, it's not there. It's not there. And that most important moment, the king is covered around with a big ceremonial box, and why they played very loud music by Handel of Zadok the priest. You couldn't hear what Charles was saying. Another very important thing she brings out is all the women were not wearing clothing or the fashion of the time, but they were wearing some sort of druid-like white dresses, very uncomfortable druid-like clothes. It's unbelievable. She also talks about how that even with the formation of the horses, the soldiers, was all out of place. I'll read a little bit here, the way she puts it. So this is by Dr. Naomi Wolf, an observer of the coronation, American writer, as found on Substack.com. Weird Things About King Charles' Coronation. I'll only read a few things and I'll speak to you again in my own words, but I think you better hear what she has said. Also, another very strange thing that I observed, and many of us observed, millions observed, while they were having this ceremony and setting it up to crown King Charles III, there was seen in the back hall an image of the Grim Reaper, or the Angel of Death. I call it the fourth horseman, Angel of Death. But anyway, it's really distinct. This person walking across the hallway, that's the one I've recorded. And from my calculations, from looking at the size of the soldiers in front, it must be about 7 feet tall, something of that order, or even bigger. What was that Grim Reaper doing there? And is it some comedy? Somebody making a comedy of the coronation? I don't think security would allow a clown troupe to show up at the coronation. I don't think so. So what was it? Why was it there? Was it a superimposed image of it? I can't tell you, but you look. You'll see there's a Grim Reaper in the coronation of King Charles III. Is it an omen? Nobody knows. But without further ado, here's what she said. So this is Dr. Naomi Wolf, just a few days ago. As I watched King Charles III coronation, I had a creeping sense, as perhaps many did, of what Dr. Sigmund Freud called in a paper by that name, das Unheimliche, or the uncanny. That is the sense of unease one has when something strange is located in a familiar situation. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. When there are subliminally disturbing inversions, doublings, or reversals, and when unease is stirred up by one's subconscious becoming aware of ordinary reality going awry. And she's asking this question to everybody. Did you feel a bit uneasy when watching the coronation of King Charles on May the 6th, 2023? If so, perhaps you don't even know consciously why that might be. King Charles' coronation was shot through, in my humble opinion, with moments and examples of the uncanny. Ritual, especially national ritual, especially as momentous symbolic occasions such as births, burials, inaugurations, etc., transitions of power, has special traditions that are repetitive. When one sees an English monarch holding a sceptre and orb, that's the norm, then you know that it extends back for centuries in English literature. Sense of nationality. Same is true for other countries. When we Americans see the stars and stripes saluted, we know it's the same salute that goes back most of our nation's history. All of this is some sort of positive magic. And he goes on to say good things about Britain and the past and how it's amazing it's lasted so long. Alright. It says, the English monarchy, of course, though it has changed over the centuries, also jealously guards its long-standing symbolism, its solemn ritual, with all of its bolstering, of course, its claim to divine right to rule. That is to say, this was all the case until King Charles was crowned last week. I do not know why some aspects of King Charles' coronation were so weird, and deviated so notably from the baseline or norms of other English coronations. I just know that they were. First, there were the odd discordancies. There were the black horses, ostensibly in formation, yet at times dramatically out of step. The soldiers in black busbies, that's those big furry hat things, with their alignments of arms and legs directly out of rhythm with one another. A lonely red coat walking in the opposite direction of everyone else. A red coated soldier collapsing. Seems to happen regularly now at these events. And other uncanny deviations from traditional display of discipline, order, symmetry. By leaving those aberrations aside, why were a number of key female attendees in shapeless, druid-like white gowns? This is entirely abhorrent. Past coronations certainly put the significant female attendees in white gowns, but they were the white dresses of that sartorial moment. The headdresses of female royalty were traditional tiaras. Right, and she shows pictures and videos of past coronations. We could go on and on. In past coronations, ladies wore clothes, hairdressing is typical of their time and social station. But at King Charles' recent coronation, here's what the women wore. And you can see, I do agree, in looking at what the women were wearing, it looked very clumsy, very strange. And now she shows a video of a Druidic gathering at Stonehenge. They look the same. If you look at images of Druidic gatherings, you will see women and men in long, loose white robes. You will see capes. You will see wreaths like the kind that Princess Anne, Princess Sophia, Princess Charlotte wore, though in fresh leaves and flowers rather than gemstones and feathers. Druidic Britain is a pre-Christian Britain, in which nature, grows, springs, rocks, trees is worshipped rather than Jesus Christ or the Judeo-Christian God. This is a Druidic ceremony at Stonehenge below. It is amazingly, bizarrely similar to what they're wearing. Weird. Another thing is the introduction of an elaborate privacy scene. That's where the king was covered around by on 3 mobile walls. Privacy scene as well, behind which the anointing of the monarch took place. Why it's all hidden, I don't know. The anointing of the king or queen has always been at the centerpiece of this solemn ritual. The holy oil consecrates the monarch to the people and to God. Yeah, except this time nobody heard anything of what went on. And it was singing so loud you couldn't hear what the king said. Anointing was one of the medieval holy sacraments and emphasized the spiritual status of the sovereign. Until the 17th century, the sovereign was considered to be appointed directly by God, and this was confirmed by the ceremony of anointing. We can hear the invocation clearly as she is anointed. Here she's mentioning about Queen Elizabeth. When she did it, you could clearly hear what she was saying. And she mentions God many times over. In contrast, the anointing is drowned out with King Charles' coronation. It's amazing. They've twisted everything. They've changed everything. They've changed everything. I think the overall message is we don't need God anymore. We don't need Christianity. We're our own gods. To hell with all this past stuff. That's what they've done. That's exactly what they've done with that ceremony. Kicking out God and Christianity officially. I mean, we already knew that England's been ungodly for a long time, or we know that it's been mostly unchristian, but to officially throw out God. Oh, they still use God somewhere, but what God? If you're a pagan, God could be Satan, could be Lucifer. And that's what they've done. I mean, this writer is so shocked with what she saw. He says, if British subjects cannot hear their king's anointing, as it's called, it's literally drowned out, starting at 2 minutes in this clip here. Oh, I'll give you the link to where you can get her article and videos in a minute. In the United States, we're hearing rumors now that members of the Biden administration may not have taken the oath of office. When it says, I do solemnly swear or affirm I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, blah, 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 that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, so help me God. If that were ever to be the case, this would be a big deal. These officials would have legal leeway to do much of what they want, including commit what would be otherwise treason. If King Charles' subjects cannot hear the anointing of the king, how do they know to what or whom he's consecrated himself? Could be Satan himself. How do they know if it is service to their God or themselves or Satan? The anointing screen itself is weird. Has elements of the Ark of the Covenant as described in Exodus 25:10. Has poles of wood to carry it and cherubs at each end. I won't read all this he talks about here, but she's mentioning about the cherubs and how they're supposed to be and how it's supposed to be. And of all things, they brought in a copy of the Ark of the Covenant, but with the cherubims facing the wrong direction and not protecting the tree of life, but facing it like they were doing their own thing. I mean, the whole thing, everything she says here, is like that coronation was an anti-ceremony of disbelief and turning to Druidism and embracing the New World Order, the World Economic Forum. That's what it was. It's a sad day for Britain, because if you denounce God and your Christianity, you also denounce your protection in the spirit world of this country. It's a very, very sad time. Very, very sad time. And there's so many other things she mentions here. It's just very interesting. She says here, this is shocking here, look at this here. She says something else is really out of place. After the ceremony, she says, I won't even go deeply into the weirdness of the balcony scene, which took place after the coronation was over. Why were these pre-adolescent boys, about 10 of them, arranged in this corridor in this way on the balcony, in sort of uniform? Normally, the explanation is their members' extended family or pages. But the iconography of this moment in the past did not. To my knowledge, include aggregation, a lineup of 8 or 10 to 13-year-old boys. The balcony iconography is always the immediate extended family of all ages. What is this lost boys imagery? Why? Are they all boys? I have no idea what caused this odd aggregation of abstracted children, but it is a departure from tradition, and this deviation from tradition aligns with other traditional family, even gender blurring moments. Princess Anne dressed, for instance, in male clothing, and a female official dressed in masculine garb of the past, carrying the train of a male official also in ceremonial dress. It may be that all of this tweaking of ancient formulae and all these reversals and inversions will create a reign of peace, prosperity and freedom from Britain. I hope so. I love that country. And I'm anguished at the damage to its liberty, and it's very 2020. We all know what's happened the last 3-4 years. There's a great reversal going on, great descent to darkness, paganism, Luciferianism. But what is Britain now? What is America, for that matter? If all our language of culture, identity, faith and patriotism is tweaked, mushed up and upended, is that not the trend everywhere in the West? For a reason? Yes, it's the end of the West. You leave God out of the picture, turn against God, turn against Jesus, that's the end of you, because you should know better. All these countries, they had it so good. Now, God knows what's going to happen. When the powers that be got cocky and arrogant like they are today, then the pagans took over and they were overwhelmed. That's what happened to the Roman Empire. Goths, the Visigoths took over. Do we not need our good magic, our consecration to God with whom we are familiar, with whom we have a history? Do we not need transparent, time-honored rituals of service to nation and people? Do we not need to know whom we actually are? If we do know who we are and insist on taking pride in our history, faith and cultural identity, are we not impossible to overcome? If we forget everything, forget entirely whom we are, is it not easy for adversaries to drive right over us in their armoured vehicles, over our crowns, orbs, screens, and over our poems, flags and all? End of article. Well, as a condescension, I can't say the word, okay. Abbreviation of 11-page article. She did a fantastic job, and you can find that Dr. Naomi Wolf, Weird Things About King Charles' Coronation, substack.com. It's a great article, it's done a great job. And it's good when people like her stand up and say it like it is. It's a nice, warm breath of fresh air. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. I'd like to hear your comments by those who have seen the coronation of King Charles III. I didn't see it personally myself, but I've read about it and seen some videos and things. But overall, I found it really odd that there was the spectre there walking about. People said they saw him walking about, and then he just suddenly disappeared, and they described him as the Grim Reaper. I saw him on video, Scepter, the Angel of Death. Question is, why? Well, feel free to write in and say what you think about the coronation of King Charles. I'd love to know what you're thinking and your thoughts, because I think it's a very sad moment for Western culture. Because it's not just now, not just Charles denouncing Christianity and God and anti-ceremony. The Pope did the same thing. We have an anti-Pope with the Catholic Church, and Biden didn't even do what he was supposed to do in his inauguration. So they're all letting down their guards of protection. If they had any, they're left with God. They've taken away their own protection from spiritual powers and enemies. They're fools and blind, complete fools and blind. But it brings up another point. The last empire, world empire, was Rome. And it was divided into East and West by the year 500 AD, so slightly before that. But it's interesting that the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church, which were parts of the same Western Empire, the western part of the Roman Empire, they've now forsaken God, forsaken Jesus, forsaken the ways of truth. So it's going to be shocking to see what happens here in the West now, when there's no more moral values. And as you know, what's been going on in Spain and what they're now saying is allowable. I mean, it's just shocking to all of us. Things are going down. They're throwing out all the rules, Christian rules, Jewish rules. They're throwing them out, throwing the Bible out. It's shocking how these people that rule, they have one rule for themselves, a totally different rule for everyone else. Well, thanks for listening. Have a great day.